world is currently facing two very pressing and interrelated problems. On the one side, we have the issue of affordable and accessible energy. On the other side, we have the issue of climate change. And today we're going to talk about the very dual challenge of energy sector. This is Energy Talks. And my name is Ahmad Humbatov, and this is Turhan Ahmedov, and we will be co-hosting this event organized jointly by the Institute for Development and Diplomacy of the AD University and Nobel Energy. I am head of the Energy and Sustainable Development Program of the Institute for Development and Diplomacy of the University, and Turhan Ahmedov is the head for PR and Communications at Nobel Energy. Our today's speakers are Bakhtiar Aslanbayli, BP's Vice President for Caspian, and Dr. Elnur Sultanov, Deputy Minister of Energy. Welcome, everyone.
Just to give a little bit of context into what Mr. Humbatov has just said, the need for energy is increasingly growing. There's a huge demand for energy. And according to the US Energy Administration, this need is going to grow by at least 47% in the coming years. But on the other hand, there's an international consensus that there is a severe need to reduce environmental impacts of human-caused emissions of carbon dioxide. So this is basically what makes the dual challenge. Dr. Sultanov, Azerbaijan has been an energy producer for centuries now. And the world actually still needs oil and gas that Azerbaijan produces, especially Europe. So then again, on the other hand, we need to be very careful how we produce that energy so that the impact to the environment is not that much. There's an agreement that we need to decrease carbon emissions by 47% by 2030, and the target of net zero is set for 2050. Now, what is Azerbaijan's stand on the dual challenge?
I think this is a good question, but very, a question that requires a very wide-ranging topics to be tackled in the process of the answering of the question. But let's start, right? So I'm a governmental, working for the government, and therefore let me start how the government of Azerbaijan is seeing this as much as I could, definitely. So we have one basic strategic document. It's called Azerbaijan 2030. National Priorities for Socio-Economic Development, signed by the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, His Excellency Mr. Ilham Aliyev. There are 5 priorities, right? And it envisages, let's call it priority till 2030, as the name suggests. And one out of those 5 priorities is called clean environment and economy of green growth, right? So I think out of 5 pillars, if one pillar is reserved to this issue and named that way, it already tells about Azerbaijan's intentions. So what happens there? One aspect, that priority is divided into 2 targets, right? This is kind of governmental jargon. One of them, clean environment, is being led by the Minister of Ecology, but the other one, economic green growth, which we define in the target stage as Azerbaijan as a green energy space, is led by the Minister of Energy. So we are responsible for, out of, I believe there are 10 targets that come out of that 5 priority. One of them is called, at the target level, Azerbaijan as a green energy space, and we are responsible for that. So that is really how the government sees the process, and we are working on that. And I will actually, again, unfold this issue a little bit more. Another big pillar, kind of official pillar, is Karabakh separately, right? Because Karabakh is jewel in the Azerbaijani crown, in a sense, right? And so whatever we are doing in Azerbaijan, we are doing even better in the case of specific area of Azerbaijan, liberated territories. For Karabakh, Mr. President specifically coined the phrase. He says that I want to see Karabakh as, or liberated territories in this sense, as green energy zone. right? And for that, Minister of Energy hired an international consultant. We prepared green energy zone concept, and we prepared also action plan, which has been approved by the government of Azerbaijan. And we are monitoring the process. Also, a working group has been established, led by Minister Shahbazov. So this is like Azerbaijan as a whole is one thing, definitely liberated territories another thing. So this is another governmental program that's already being implemented. Again, we can go to details of that. And third, to me, it's the extension of kind of internal governmental processes and programs, which is our commitment, international commitment, which we expressed at COP26. Whereby, as you rightly suggested, we upgraded our commitment to decrease greenhouse gases by 40% till 2050, which was used to be 35% till 2030. But also, very importantly, we declared Karabakh to be carbon neutral by 2050. Liberated territories, I use them interchangeably, but of course, in liberated territories, we have two economic zones, right? So it's Karabakh and East Zengezur. So this is another kind of extension of the internal governmental processes and programs that we have, and we are working very hard to realize them.
So our next question would be to Mr. Slambeli. So we know that energy companies are also well into this sort of race into the net zero, right? And we know that energy companies are sort of transforming themselves, right, from oil and gas companies to energy companies. They're repositioning, they're doing this rebranding, right? Companies like Statoil became Equinor, right? Total became Total Energies, right? And BP is also increasingly, right, investing into energy, green energy, renewables, etc. And my question would be: is how do actually BP's global net zero efforts align with those of Azerbaijan?
Sure. Actually, it's well said that the energy transition cannot be possible without a role of energy companies in it. And to acknowledge that, we in BP set out our new ambitions back in February 2020. Our new ambition is actually to get to the net zero by 2050 or sooner, and help to the world to get there, to become net zero. And in order to get to that ambition, we adopted the new strategy. The essence of that strategy is we are pivoting from international oil company focused on the production of hydrocarbons, on provision of hydrocarbons, into the international energy company, which will be focused on the provision of the solutions for the customers. And obviously, we declared that we'll reduce the emissions significantly. We'll have three cornerstones, pillars of our new strategy. One is the resilient hydrocarbons, the second is the convenience and mobility, and the third one is the low carbon energy. So the hydrocarbons, production of oil and gas, will be one of the three pillars of our strategy, that's for sure. But we'll keep that pillar in order to enable ourselves to invest into the low carbon as much as possible. In that journey, we are aiming to reduce our hydrocarbon portfolio, fossil portfolio, by 40%, and to increase our renewable power capacity, production capacity, to 50 gigawatt by 2030. So those are the key challenges, key targets, and we believe we're in good shape to deliver those targets. How those targets are aligned with our strategy in Azerbaijan? Obviously, we are in Azerbaijan for 30 years. We have been managed together with the government quite productive cooperation, quite productive collaboration, strategic relationship with the different institutions of the government. And we value the trust of the government, of the state, in operating two major fields in Azerbaijan. So we would like to continue that journey based on the strategic relationship with the government, with the state, to enhance our cooperation to renewable energy area as well. So we're in constant discussions with the Minister of Energy on the new projects in the renewable area. We are in constant discussions with the government, the Minister of Energy, and possible decarbonization of the country. We presented our recommendations in the form of the so-called decarbonization master plan, which is our vision and recommendation, how we see further decarbonization of the energy industry. Obviously, one of the important steps is decarbonization of the existing oil and gas production in the country. and also just with we can talk about later on further steps of that decarbonization master plan. So basically the strategy of the company and the vision of the state towards the energy transition and renewable production is actually kind of matching each other. And we would like to take that opportunity and build up on our strategic relationship we managed to build up during the last 30 years in the country and work together for the new projects, this time on the renewable area.
There's no surprises that the academic world plays a really huge role in helping the world achieve net zero targets. And we're seeing lots of, around the world, universities, the academic world that are actually doing their best, and particularly universities that they have their own carbon neutral and net zero targets. But what the world and everyone here, I'm assuming, are expecting from the academic world is what kind of more sustainable solutions can the academic world suggest. So in that context, what is there any plans for ADA?
Yes, thank you for the question, by the way. And not just, I think, role of academia should be stressed. I think generally the role of civil society should be underlined here, because increasingly we see that civil society is playing a more important role, definitely, in the issues related to green energy transition, climate change, etc. Right? And I think it's really hard to underestimate their role in helping to adapt the Paris Agreement. And talking about the ADA, right, and generally about the university and the academic sector, right, definitely can play a bigger role, and this is what we are doing actually in raising awareness, right, in teaching disciplines related to sustainable development, green energy, the environment. We ourselves actually a green campus. We do generate energy using geothermal sources, right? And we are actually one of few universities in the world which possess this kind of technology, by the way. We should also say that we do organize a number of programs, executive education programs related to, again, energy, sustainable development. And I should also, I think, stress the importance of our Baku Summer Energy School, which is an annual flagship project of the ADA University, which is organized, by the way, in partnership with BP, SOCAR, and Ministry of Energy.
That's great. Speaking of Paris Agreement, and we all know that there's a growing coalition of countries and cities and other institutions that are joining this so-called coalition of net zero. And I know that Azerbaijan is not yet there, Dr. Sultanov, but we are participating in the Paris Agreement since 2016, if I'm not wrong. And this coalition requires a transparent publicity of results, like specific results on greenhouse gas emissions. Are we ready for that?
Well, definitely. I think Azerbaijan is again moving along. As I said, we have had commitments, and in the upcoming month, our Minister of Ecology and Natural Resources will be traveling to Egypt for COP27, and we are going to be taking new, I believe Azerbaijan will become party to some of the initiatives, several initiatives already. But here the deal, I think, is about green, but at the cost of what? Right? So you need to pay to become green, or at least there are different shades of green, and all of those shades come with different costs, right? And in the case of, for instance, liberated territories, we actually focused on 3 shades, like very green, green, and lesser than that, right? And we found out that, well, there is a certain investment, right, that even makes economic sense in terms of energy efficiency and renewable energy, right? So there's a certain area whereby any investment there comes back economically speaking. So it's not that you are going to be spending extra money, but you are getting green and actually even making some money, right? This is the best area for us to focus. Azerbaijan is not Switzerland, we are not Germany yet in terms of per capita income. And therefore, we should be looking at how we are going to be spending government's money, people's money, to that end. So therefore, but beyond, and there are very crazy ideas, very innovative ideas, but they are not de-risked technologically speaking, and they are very expensive. So I think the best way is to focus on those green initiatives that makes economic sense, or at least pay for itself, and then wait for very innovative and expensive ideas to get de-risked, being tested in different countries who can afford doing that, and then apply them in Azerbaijan. I think we are doing great. And again, I don't want to take much time given that we need to keep our answers short. But both in terms of energy efficiency and renewable energy, I think there are great steps that we are taking, and we are already seeing the results of that. For instance, our electricity consumption there were different scenarios 5 years ago, how the energy consumption will increase in Azerbaijan. We are at the lowest scenario right now. Why? It's not because Azerbaijanis did not increase their consumption. They did. But energy efficiency measures and better metering, right, better administrative system eventually resulted in saving energy, although we are using more and more of it, right? So we decreased waste, and therefore the growth was not as much as expected, actually because of waste. And as a result, everybody gains. Eventually, the government subsidies go down, people pay less money, and environment, of course, celebrates this kind of growth.
So can we say that Azerbaijan is on the right track?
Oh, definitely in the right track. And I believe that we will keep increasing our commitments to like 40% till 2050 is what we believe we can deliver. And as you said, right, so these calculations are done by internationally approved programs, certified programs. You cannot make them up. Usually greenhouse gas emissions issue is its energy, its transportation, its economy in general, and agricultural in particular. So among these components, energy is doing very well. And in fact, we almost achieved our 35% commitment, which was supposed to be till 2030, if you look at the energy component per se. And I believe that as the government is gearing up towards more intensified moves in that regard, specifically in Karabakh, I think Karabakh will be one of the best cases in the world. One thing is every kilowatt hour of electricity consumed in Karabakh will be produced out of green energy. It will be renewable, right? There won't be any fossil fuel generated electricity consumed in Karabakh.
All right, let's talk about synergies. So, as I have just mentioned, right, the important role of civil society. I think that the industry is also recognizing the necessity to cooperate with civil society, with academia, right? And increasingly, we know that BP is also investing into a number of social projects, including, this project also includes some partnership initiatives with the ADA University. So how would you evaluate and what would you say about the social projects related to sustainability, related to green energy, and generally, what can you say about the potential synergies and the room for increasing partnership between the industry and the academia and civil society? Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Ahmed. Yes, of course. I think if we talk about the social initiatives that are kind of the supporting energy transition and then the net zero ambitions, I think that the first stage we should talk about the human capital. If we're serious about the future of the renewable energy, if we're serious about the future of energy transition, then we should be thinking now and taking care of developing human capital equipped with the new innovative knowledge, skills, and competences. And with that respect, I'm very proud of our initiative that is aiming to start a dual degree program between in renewable energy, between a local university and one of the UK universities. We already signed the necessary agreements with the Minister of Science and Education, with the local university, Azerbaijan State Oil and Industry University. Minister of Education is co-sponsor, co-partner in that project, and they are already identified the local, the UK university that will be partnering with our local university. We are excited and looking forward to start of that new program already in September 2023. So this is a program for 3 cohorts for 3 years on the dual degree program. Each cohort will take 40 Azerbaijani citizens who will get international certification and international diploma and internationally recognized knowledge in renewable energy in Baku. So we're talking about training 120 professionals in master degree in renewable energy. Then this project will continue by the local university as a sustainable project. On top of that, we are cooperating with the Baku High Oil School, and we are about to present the first ever textbook, Introduction to Renewable Energy in Azerbaijani language. And that textbook will be available to all local universities who has the engineering discipline or renewable energy discipline in the future. We also sponsored the laboratories like ecology laboratory at the UNEC, renewable energy laboratory at the University of Construction and Architecture. We're heavily into, this is the education part of our initiatives only. In terms of the environmental projects, we are implementing the reforestation of the forest zones in the rural areas. We're talking about the 360,000 tree planting and the maintenance project. That project will be completed next year. We're already actually quite heavy into the implementation of that project. Among other projects, I would like also to talk about the couple of the one of the infrastructure project. Basically, certain schools in the rural areas will move their heating system from a wet wood-based heating system into the pellet-based heating system. This is another contribution to the environment and the sustainability, and so on and so forth. So we are not only aiming to change our strategy, to realize our new ambition to get net zero, or to increase and enhance our activities and to embrace renewable energy projects, but also as a responsible corporate citizen, we're trying to build up a necessary infrastructure and background at the universities, in the society.
Speaking of synergies, and I'm sure there's some expected, the challenge is really huge. So I'm sure there's some expectations on both sides. Say, Mr. Sultanov, I'm sure that there's a government expects certain things from academia as well as from the industry. Could you a little bit talk about that, the biggest expectations?
I think our really, of course, in the government, usually you, by law, right, law dictates what you are supposed to be doing, and you focus on those things, right? You are not into wishful thinkings or expectations, definitely. But in any case, I think our job is to create the environment where we can attract as much international private investment as possible. At the Ministry of Energy, I think the major philosophy, the major approach to this issue is that it's enough we spend governmental money for energy projects, right? Because if energy projects are profitable, right, sometimes it's possible that it's the project is such a strategic importance that government says, you know what, I'm going to be tapping into my resources despite the fact that you cannot monetize everything there, right? But beyond that, we believe that private investment, international or domestic, should be really the driving force. And the governments should be doing what they are doing best, create environment, regulatory environment for the private business to come. And this is really sheds light into what we have been doing as Minister of Energy, and we are very proud to tell you that we are working with Masdar and with Aqua Power, and including BP, for the construction of total of about 710 megawatts of renewable energy, wind and solar. All of them right now are onshore projects, and hopefully they are up and running starting from the next year, right? It will take probably up to 3 years, but they will be starting next year. At least some of the projects will be there next year. All of them are private investment. Azerbaijani government again prepares the ground for that. Of course, there are expenditures on the government side as well, because certain things has to be paid by the government to make sure that international investments and private investments, investors in general, are able to recover their money. But we're very happy that we have been able to bring them in by the current prevailing tariff levels that we have in Azerbaijan, which are really low compared to, I'm talking about wholesale tariff levels. They are quite low. We are talking about prices around 3 cents, right? It depends on US cents. It depends on how you look at that, with or without VAT and all that. But still, globally speaking, some of the best offers came from some of our private partners, and we are very proud that we are moving forward. And what does it mean? It means that government is out of capex, and we are talking about probably more than probably close than $500 million that government won't be spending. It will be private corporations that are going to spend it. Of course, final consumers will pay for that. And we are going to regulate the environment so that all of this happens. So this is our philosophy. And the same thing is happening vis-a-vis this 10 gigawatt agreement we have signed with Masdar about development of onshore and offshore potential, renewable energy potential. It's also, again, about private investors. So I think this is our take on that. Everybody should be specializing in what they are best at. Private corporations really do how to calculate their return, their IRRs, and they should be doing that. And governments should be doing what they have been doing best, which is about regulatory.
Mr. Aslanbey, as someone who's been very close to the academic world and to the industry, what is your BP's expectation on the government in order to achieve the net zero targets and battling the dual challenge issue in the best possible way, both from the government and the academic world?
So obviously the dual challenge is there, and the dual challenge that the humanity is facing now is actually to bring required energy levels for the growth, for the increasing of the livelihood of the population, global population, but in the meantime taking care of the environment. But this is happening during the times of yet another energy crisis. And comparing to other energy crises of 70s, 80s, 2000s, this energy crisis is also accompanied by the war in Europe, post-pandemic economy, high rate of inflation. So these are actually making the situation even more complicated. We call it energy trilemma anymore, not dual challenge. And on top of the dual challenge, we call it energy trilemma, which basically we need to provide safe energy, affordable energy, and secure energy. So that environmental aspect, that energy, we need to provide energy resources to the global market and the humanity, but without damaging the environment, being the decarbonized and environmental friendly energy resources, would that be fossil, would that be renewable? And then these should not impact in any means the security. That should also have been, there should also be like actually quite affordable energy security. And also the third aspect of that pricing mechanism that should be affordable. And then the expectations from the governments obviously everywhere, it's basically to prepare the legislative basis and regulatory basis in a way that to enable both governments and the private business and academia and all the society to contribute to that common goal.
So just to wrap up, there should be a sort of balance, right, between the affordability, accessibility, right, security, and also we want the energy to be green. Dr. Elnur Sultanov, Mr. Bashir Aslanbey, thank you so much for joining us today. That was Energy Talks, and hope to see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks.